From Rare Gem Productions, this is Let's Get It Together.
Come on in, everyone, and take your seats, please.
This is the classroom, where we get a front row seat to expert instruction, information, and access. You won't leave the way you came. This classroom is all about knowledge, and knowledge is power, and the power is yours. Now, let's get it together.
So as a tribute to my grandmother, I decided to do Grandmother CEO. Mm-hmm. So if you notice the cover, she looks like she's ruling the world.
Yes, she does.
And people always say, well, what company does she run? But the CEO stands for caring, elegant, and outstanding.
That's right. And that's
because
exactly
that's who she is.
Yes, that's who she is.
That's who she is.
What is your grandmother's name?
My grandmother's name is Elmer Bazile Thomas.
Okay.
And she's in White Castle, Louisiana.
Come on now.
Yes.
Tell me more about Elmer.
Well, my grandmother is, she's love personified. That's the best way that I can describe her. And caring, elegant, and outstanding is who she's been in my life. When I actually went back to look at her life story, her journey has been amazing. She's a phenomenal orator. She's been featured in Southern Living magazine and in their anniversary editions and so forth throughout my lifetime. And everyone who would come through Nottoway Plantation, which is the backdrop of the cover of the book, would always feature her. So we've seen her in German publications. And I had a relative who was on the airplane one day and pulled the magazine out of the seat pocket, and there she was. So the world took notice of Elmer Bazile Thomas many years ago. And as I grew up, I didn't take for granted the jewel that we actually have in our lives. Sometimes you look at your grandparents or people in your life, and it's just what you know because they're in your life. So when I think back, my grandmother instilled some things in me very early on in life. She calls me her lady from New York, and that's the first vignette in the book. And ever since I can remember, she's called me, "You my lady from New York." And as a kid, I didn't know exactly what that meant, but the way she said it, and when she said "my lady from New York," even the poise that she had and everything, I knew that, well, a lady from New York must be somebody special.
That's right.
So because she began to call me that, then that's who I became.
That's right.
And I didn't know, I hadn't even been to New York yet as a child, but I knew, oh, well, this must really mean something. So I began to walk like she walked.
Yeah.
With my head held high.
That's right.
And I began to talk like she talks.
That's right.
With a 7th grade education, having to drop out of school to work because there was no high school in her area. I just couldn't believe her story when I learned that because she's one of the greatest orators that I've ever heard. And so I found myself patterning and mimicking things that she did even as a kid. And we would even joke around and talk like my grandmother. Yeah. And then here I am in life finding myself doing those very things.
That's right. And you've written a book then that has come from the lessons as well as the pride and love she poured into you. It's called Grandmother CEO, Caring, Elegant, and Outstanding. And now you embody those things, and she meant that for you. You are joined as well with your daughter. Maya, do you know Miss Elmer?
Yes, I do.
Describe your grandmother as you see her through your eyes, your great-grandmother.
She is very interesting, and I like to learn about her when I do projects for school and stuff like that. And also, she's really special because a lot of kids don't have great grandmothers like I do.
Right.
And I'm really proud.
Can you see how much she's impacted your mom and how those lessons have then been passed on to you?
I can.
Yeah. Pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
So guess what that means for you? You'll be passing them on as well. That's what we call legacy. 3 lessons then, Tina. 3 lessons out of the 12 that stand out to you.
I'm often asked that, and it's such a difficult one.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about, I talked about My Lady from New York first. Yeah. And that's one that really stands out for me, and I put that as the first vignette in the book. I made that the first vignette because I really believe that my grandmother taught me something that now I'm able to do with my own daughter, with Maya.
And what is
that? What my grandmother taught me is that, just as you can begin to see potential and you can actually shape and mold an individual just from the very beginning. So it's really important to me what I say to Maya and to build her up and just to tell her how great she is and just to point out those unique gifts and talents that she has. Because even as we walked in to meet with you today, I told her, look around, Maya, you have a wonderful voice. Let me show you how this thing really works, because this is something that you can really do.
Yeah, you can.
So to call those things that be not as though they were is extremely important. And that's what my grandmother did for me early on in life.
Call those things.
Call those things. Now, think about this. Let me paint this picture for you. White Castle, Louisiana, and Dorseyville is the specific town in White Castle where she is 2 streets and a river road long. And my grandmother lives in the big white house with the red roof behind the railroad track.
How about that?
So everyone knows off of Highway 1, going from Baton Rouge to New Orleans, if you don't take the interstate and you take Highway 1, if you glance back behind the railroad track and see the big white house, they know that's Mommy's house, and they know that the doors are always open there.
How about that?
So in this town of 2 streets and a river road, my grandmother is calling me her lady from New York, which is a big city.
That's big.
That's big.
That's right.
So that's the kind of out of the box.
Small town, baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So wherever you are in life, you can be in a small town, but you don't have to have small town ideas.
Can we get her on the phone?
Yeah, we can get her on the phone. Yeah, we can get on the phone this morning. It's just that easy.
Playing.
Yes.
See?
Uh-huh.
Give me the number.
Yes.
Is it too early for her?
No, and she'll be ready.
Okay.
If you want to take this, that's fine.
I'm going to.
She's always ready.
I'm going to.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mommy,
Yes,
how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. This is your lady from New York and your brown mama. And we're at the radio station. And yes, and we're with the wonderful Miss Jade Harrell this morning.
Isn't that wonderful?
And she asked me if I can get you on the line. When could I get you on the line? And I said, right now. And you're always ready.
Good morning, Mommy.
Good morning.
I am honored to be speaking with you this morning.
How wonderful.
Let me just say, I'm a grandma's kid, and me and my granny are tight like
Really?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And she is the one that poured into me as well. So it is a true pleasure to be speaking with you.
That's great.
Yes, ma'am. Key question. She named you as CEO, caring, elegant, and outstanding.
Yes.
Tell me why you do what you do.
I grew up that way. That's the way I wanted to be. That's the way I wanted her to be, so that is why I called her my lady from New York.
Yeah. So these were lessons that were passed on to you.
Yes.
That's amazing. What lesson, if you were to pull out one that either speaks to you right now or stands out to you in reflection?
What stands out to me is to treat everyone right and to love everybody.
Now, we're in a world where loving everybody, love period, isn't a common or popular notion.
That's the way I am. That's my mother raised me that way. You had to love everybody.
Did you know
And the
your grandma?
neighborhood raised me, not just her.
How about that? Did you know your grandma?
Yes, I did.
How about your great-grandma?
No, I didn't know my great-grandma.
Okay. How do you love everyone?
Oh, no matter what they say or do, you show them love.
No matter what.
They may say or do, you show love. And a lot of times you can win them over.
That's a very powerful lesson.
Yes, it is.
Your granddaughter and your great-granddaughter here are very inspiring in their own right. And they say that comes from the love that they've gotten from you.
That she always said that.
How does that make you feel?
Makes me feel wonderful, wonderful. Because from a small child, I always called her my lady from New York.
What does that mean?
Those days, a lady from New York was a great lady. I'm 80 years old, so back in those days, a lady from New York was great.
Right. You said back then, right? That's a key point there now. So you said you're 80, how much?
86.
You've seen this world, our people, our communities go through a lot.
A lot, a lot.
You have seen tremendous change in your short years here
Yes,
on this
I
planet.
have. Yes, I have. And I worked as a tour guide in Nottoway, and I have met people from all over the world.
Amazing.
And they all said the same thing about me. It's good to know me.
That is good to know you. Meeting all sorts of people over the course of your lifetime, what is the commentary you walk away with?
The same thing, love.
I'm so thankful you joined us today and shared with us, and she was right. You was ready. For our listeners, we have listeners here in St. Louis and all over the world. As if we were all your grandchildren, can you leave us with something, a piece of you today?
What I would leave with you is the same thing, because that is what it takes.
That is.
To love everybody and treat everybody right.
Everybody.
Everybody.
That's right. God bless.
Treat them right.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome, dear. So it's a pleasure meeting you.
I know. I'm just cheesing right now. I am cheesing. How about that?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. See, that's real.
Mm-hmm.
You say that mommy's truth that you learned came from the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Is that now your standard?
It really is. I just believe it was so important. One of the life lessons that I have in here is called Don't Look Back in Church. And that particular life lesson...
That's got a story with that, I think.
That particular life lesson just really resonates with me, because I talk about St. John Baptist Church, which is the church in Dorseyville, Louisiana, right there in White Castle. And I describe it, hands clapping, feet stomping, and I mean, people swaying. There's just something about that Southern, just being in the South, and my grandmother always had this thing about her grandchildren and her children not looking back in church. Now, if you really wanted to get in trouble, start looking back in church every time. And it just really, I would think about it all the time. And honestly, in my mind, I would say, what's the big deal?
Right.
Why can't we look back in church? Here I am, a little kid. But she meant that. And my grandmother was an usher, so she was always in the back. And so I couldn't understand at 4 years old, like, what's the big deal and why can't I look back? But if I really wanted to get in trouble, it was keep looking back every time that church door opened.
So the lesson then is...
Yeah. So then later on in life, as I'm running track, I had a wonderful track coach here in St. Louis, Michael Carr, with the St. Louis Royal Knights. He's deceased now. And the first day, I was very, very fast, just as Maya is now.
All right now, Maya.
And so he, the first day out for practice, he had me run against the fastest male on the team, which I will dare not say his name because he may be listening. And as I'm running, and I mean, I am going, and I'm neck and neck with this individual. And there were 3 of us running, though, and the other person was lagging a little bit behind. So I turned to the right to kind of gauge where I was in the race. And as I turned to the right to gauge where I was in the race, I almost lost the race. And I thought about it. When I got to the finish line, having won the race, Mr. Carr said, don't ever look back in a race again. So here's another point in my life where I'm hearing about not stopping to look back at what's going on in the midst of what's happening. And it clicked for me. That life lesson that my grandmother was trying to teach me was, when you look back, you lose ground. Always pay attention to what's ahead of you and not what's behind you. Be focused on where you're going and the goal ahead. Looking back causes one to be distracted and lose ground.
I love that.
So my reflection for those that I'm training when I do this is, when did you look back and lose ground? We all can think of a time.
Yeah.
What will you focus on that is ahead of you? And what are your distractions?
I love that you give us techniques. This is a wonderful book for multiple reasons. One, to help us through. The reflections are some that we could repeat for affirmations as well. Once we get to those answers, to help guide us caringly through those answers. But just the retelling and the pictures, how we can connect there is just so awesome. And thank you for sharing her with us in this way. Tell us where we can not only get the book, but maybe sign up for the training and or get the training in places that we want to share. Okay, wonderful. So grandmotherceo.com. And my company at large is Success Academy, LLC. So you can also go to successacademyllc.com. In order to book workshops or trainings, you can go to the site, or you can call 314-956-2656.
314-956-2618. 314-956-2618. So I do this particular training. I pull